realness.
All right, Fanny, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Theo, you there?
I'm here. Introducing authentic realness. Realness.
Hello, everyone. We are back for another episode of our Authentic Realness podcast. What a journey.
Realness.
Are you all enjoying this journey? How about that? I always talk about how much I'm loving the process of the journey and all the varying topics and an opportunity for me to share with you all what I've been doing for over 20 years in my professional career and how that has been a journey. It's so much of a journey. And I hope and pray that you all are understanding that your career is a journey. I think too often, early career, we go in thinking it's a destination. Oh, I want to be X, Y, and Z. So you think about when you make your decision in college that, okay, I'm going to have this major and I'm going to become this, and the ultimate plateau is going to be this, and there's that destination. And I do want to even correct the misnomer that I hear often that people talk about. Oh, nobody works in their major. That's a lie. There are plenty of us that work within our majors, and there are plenty of us that have a foundation where when you have a major such as any level of information systems, what do we not use computers for in this day and age? So when you have a major like mine, foundationally, it impacts everything. So I don't care what I do. I'm always going to use what I learned in college from a vantage point of a combination of both business acumen, development, understanding, along with every and anything computer related. And so much of my career has definitely been within the technology sector. And Lord Jesus, we certainly need to pray for that sector, because it's just sad when you think about the number of talented individuals that are laid off right now. And I certainly pray that those people are having their moments of whatever sea of emotions that people feel that they need to go through in order to get to a point where they can pick themselves up and they can move on the journey of looking for their next job. I will tell you all that I was a little taken aback by some of the LinkedIn posts that I've seen. And certainly I'm going to talk about this a little more in our next episode, where it's so important that we pay attention to what we say, because by all means, I am one of these people where, no, I don't know what you meant. I know what you said. And what I'm seeing in some of these posts is that it's this woe is me mindset. Like, oh, never in a million years would I think that I, the great Aaron Plush, would be laid off. What? Are you kidding me? What would make Aaron Plush so great that he would think that everybody else, particularly when the writing's been on the wall at many companies and so many people have been getting laid off, I think we need to reevaluate that thought, because it definitely sounds a bit privileged. It sounds a bit arrogant. It sounds a bit like elitist, because the bottom line is this: a layoff is just that. You were laid off. Distinctly different than being fired. You know, most people are fired because of performance. Most people are fired because they've done something that they shouldn't have done. Most people are fired because there's an indiscrepancy of some type. But when you're laid off, typically it has absolutely positively nothing to do with you. It's a business decision that the company at a bottom line perspective realized that, hey, we got to cut some financial aspects of what's going on with this business. And unfortunately, although we have these superstars, they too have to go. And in turn, for you to think that all these other superstars and all these other companies have been being laid off and are looking for jobs, but then I, Aaron Plush, am going to appear on the scene and say, oh, never in a million years. Because to me, it sounds like there's an absence of empathy. It sounds like there's an absence of compassion. And by no means am I telling anybody that we should have a gloom and doom like, oh, CEO got laid off last week, that I'm going to get laid off this week. Definitely not saying that.
Mhm.
But by all means, if I got laid off this week, then Theo really better understand that he very well could be laid off tomorrow. And he needs to understand that with certainty. And to understand, I don't care how much work he's doing. I don't care how many hours he works. Or all those things that we would like to believe would keep us from being laid off. You better find some work-life harmony. And to be clear, what that means is not work-life balance, because if anybody tells you that that's possible, it's not. You'll never be able to say, oh, 50% of my time is dedicated to my job, 50% of my time is dedicated to me. It's just not going to happen. But if you find that harmony, there might be those 60-40 weeks, 70-30 weeks, 10-90 weeks, either way. That's what the harmony is all about. But in that, if you are living your life where you're giving all of you to your job and you are neglecting your family, you're neglecting your health, you're neglecting your workout, you're neglecting your finances, you're neglecting anything, then the person that's the problem in that is not the company you're working for or with. The problem in that is you, because these are the decisions that you're making. So for many of us, including me, layoffs may be just that level of humble pie that we need to come on off our high horse and to do the things that we likely should have been doing that we weren't. Now, let's be crystal clear. I'm not beating up anybody who's been laid off. Been there, done that. Did it feel good? Was there a sting? Yeah. But understand, and I said this to a former work colleague the other day, and he's like, you just have so much insight, and your mindset is just always so interesting. He's like, oh, well, I understand in my process that for him, he actually is in a situation where companies informed him that he's on the transition team. He knows this exact date that he will end, and then he knows when his layoff will be and what his severance package will look like and all those type things. And he's like, oh, and then we'll be able to bounce back and we'll be able to get up off of the ground and we'll be able to move on after all of that. And I was like, well, brother, I'm going to challenge you and say that there's nothing to bounce back from. There's nothing to get off the ground from, because if you don't allow yourself to bounce away, or if you don't allow yourself to drop to the ground, you're able to just move on. And that moving on process, because for me, I don't know about other folks, I know the lifestyle I live. And the lifestyle that I live takes money. And I'm not going to kid me or anybody else to say that I have time to be somewhere, woe is me, and not looking for a job immediately. I don't have time to be anywhere. Oh, I'm going to take a month off because I have the severance package and I'm not going to immediately look for a job. At the moment that you tell me I'm going to lay it off, a couple of things I'm going to do is call unemployment immediately. That's what I said. And then the other thing that I'm going to do is immediately be looking for a job. Now, that's my journey. That's my story. And I'm sticking to it. But I would encourage other folks that if you got to go through your sea of emotions, also understand that you have a family, you got bills. It might behoove you in your woe is me moment to start applying for jobs, particularly in this time where there's so many superstars that are unemployed. So in turn,
Did your alarm just go off again?
no, this time it's Siri, I guess.
Realness.
All kinds of things are going on. Hey, you just can just drop the realness comment and we keep it moving. How about that?
Realness.
But in that, I would just encourage us to apply for jobs, understanding that the competition is real deal. And because there's so many superstars out there, you look on LinkedIn and you look at any open role and you see all these people that are immediately applying, and any other sources that you might be using to apply for roles. It's just a lot of folks. Now, the good news I have for you, I had to kind of share this with someone else as well who's been linking up. It's like, well, people would like to paint these pictures. Oh, nobody hires in December. That's a lie. Oh, nobody hires in January. That's a lie too. Do what you got to do.
Definitely.
Because the bottom line is this. Yeah, there are a lot of people that are without jobs. Yeah, there are a lot of superstars out there. Yeah, it's very uncertain. It doesn't feel good. But here's some good news for you. You only need one job. So although those odds sound very radical and very extreme, I want you to think about what I'm saying. All you need is one. So therefore, you can get that one in December. You can get that one in January. You get that one in February. And ultimately, for believers and those who truly know God, what's for you is for you. And no one can stop or block that. So I do want to leave this topic with some encouragement to say in very certain terms, all you need is one. That's it, one. And that one is there waiting for you to make that move, to apply. And do some non-traditional things. Pick the phone up. Call some folks. Reach out to all of your circle of folks that you know. Because you just never know what's going to come from it. And I certainly can speak to that firsthand. You're out here doing what everybody else is doing, you're likely going to get the results that everybody else is getting. And that's a lot of no's. And be prepared for the no's. Because remember, the rejection is not necessarily rejecting you. Just potentially somebody else is better fit. Nothing else to it. But all you need is that one. And know that one is coming. But that one is certainly not going to come with you laid up in your bed somewhere. Oh my God, what's happening? Oh my God.
Now, what's dope about what you're saying, because it speaks so vividly to what I experienced a few months ago. So this conversation is spot on. But the thing that, without even us sitting down and having a conversation about, you've taught me this through your actions and me watching you, is just always be alert in that environment.
Be aware.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Be aware. Be aware.
Yeah.
Be aware. And just always be aware and be alert to what's going on around you.
Absolutely.
Because you can't be sitting here on LinkedIn and seeing XYZ company has this many layoffs and XYZ, and you sitting there thinking, oh, I'm an anomaly. That'll never happen to me.
Right.
Because you never know. You never know the world we live in. It's only one person that knows how everything will end, and that's God.
Yep.
So you have to use your resources, like you're saying, and always be privy to your surroundings, because you never know what may happen. And if you're networking and you're constantly out there, okay, if this happened, I got a backup plan. And I got a backup plan for the next backup plan and next backup plan after that. Because if it goes back to the cliche phrase, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
Agreed. And I challenge
to not
you a
get
bit.
comfortable.
Yeah, and I challenge you on the backup plans, because I'm not necessarily all that big of a fan of Steve Harvey. One thing that he said, and he's doubled down on it, which I love, and I heard him say this years ago, but I just recently saw an article the other day where he was talking about it again, and he talked about only having an A plan. And his A plan was twofold. A as in the highest grade of an A, meaning it's your best top plan, but also A singular. And his thought was that when you have a B and a C and a D and an E and an F plan, you've already failed. Because you already made up in your mind that what you are doing is going to fail. Now, I think for me, I know for me, I love that. And I agree. And that's how I live my life, because I am willing to do what I have to do to make things work. But when it comes to something as simple as a job, it's a job. you get another one. So it's not about having, I work with company ABC today, and if it doesn't work out, I'm going to go to company XYZ. I'm going to go to company ABC. I'm going to give company ABC my all because I know my work ethic. I know how I produce. I know I'm a go-getter. I know I'm going to get it done. And when company ABC decides, hey, Aaron, this has been great. This doesn't work out. Okay, company XYZ, here I am. But my mindset doesn't change about me because I'm not going to go to company XYZ and do anything differently. But that's because I brought my A game to company ABC and my A game to company XYZ. My own personal experiences with layoffs and being fired, as I said before, the great and amazing Aaron Plush has been both laid off, fired a couple of times actually. It is what it is, whatever. And each time there was nothing to bounce back from because I just kept going. And I'm not a subscriber to blessings in the disguise or any of that type. It was a blessing. Every time, when I think back on every experience that I've been laid off and fired, it was a blessing because the outcomes were so significant. Several being God had already told me your time is out here, but because of comfortability and because of me wanting to be me and wanting to do what I want to do, he'd already told me it was time for me to go. I couldn't go. Let me help you. Since you can't seem to hear me, let me help you get on out of there. Because you can't seem to know that I got something else for you to do, and you can't do it if you're there.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly hindsight is 2020, and certainly having a 20-year career of success is also something that one can say, well, you can say that because you've had the journey, you've experienced. This is my first job.
Realness.
Okay, we'll move on to your second one. How about that? And it's not about me being insensitive. It's about me giving you some real life, authentic realness stuff.
Realness.
Because we make these jobs way too important anyway. That's the other problem. Your job, for many of us, is our God. Everything about you is your job. Somebody asks you about you, and there's not one thing about you. I work at company ABC. My title was so-and-so. I didn't ask you that. I didn't say, what do you do? Where do you work? I asked you, tell me about you. Telling me about you is not telling me what you do on a job. Even if you're the owner, that's still not you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're defined by a job or a company or being an entrepreneur, you're in trouble. You're in trouble.
That you are. That you are.
And in turn, I've even been challenging myself where that's not my introduction anymore. Someone asks me about me, I tell them about me. And that typically starts when I'm very direct. Tell me about you. Very direct. That what you see is what you get with me. And I don't do fake, phony, and liars. I am going to do much better. Even if you were to hit me, I'm going to be less bothered than you lying to me. And in the minds of many people, that's crazy. Like, so you're saying like somebody can physically assault you and you're going to be less upset about lying. I am. Because a physical component for me, we can work through, like, what was the deal? What's going on here? What's happening here? But when you lie to me, and because lying to me is directly associated with trust. And when I don't trust you, you can't be around me. I can't leave you at my house. I can't trust you around my friends. I can't trust you around my family. So guess what? The best we could be is distant associates at best, because you're a liar. And I don't believe in little white lies. I kind of look at life from the way that my Heavenly Father looks at life. Just as a sin is a sin, there are no levels. There's no big, little, no. A lie is a lie for me, which happens to be a sin.
It is what it is.
For those who don't know, it's a sin. And certainly I now understand that it's harder to tell the truth than it is to lie. And it's unfortunate. You think about how hard it is for people to tell somebody that they got a booger in their nose. What is the deal? You do.
So simple.
It's hard for you to tell. Your breath is stink. Tell the person. If you're a friend. I mean, because like everybody else knows, everybody's talking about it. And with these masks that we've worn for so long, some folks, ooh, Jesus, how did you do it?
Get that dry mouth behind that thing, boy.
Well, with the mask, though, like the bottom line is this: like everybody should have been able to just very simply know, like if your breath was stink when we were wearing these masks, you now know what the rest of the world has been
enduring,
and that would have been the time for you to fix that. Yet I digress. So back to the topic at hand of tonight in talking about, and this wasn't even supposed to be the topic. Oh God, you're funny. Addressing these layoffs and all that type stuff. I want to end this part of the discussion on a high note, as I always do. Be encouraged. Know that your next role is out there. Stop letting these jobs and professions define you. Know that you're so much greater than a job. And know, and this is the part that's so funny about this topic. You got the job because of who you were. But you get the job and you let the job define you. Say that again. You got the job because of who you were. You get the job and you allow the job to define you. There's a disconnect. The defining of the job is supposed to be you. It goes back to the Greek life world. For those that know anything about fraternities and sororities, and I can even talk about my own organization, and whatever brother who wants to get upset when I say this, call me. And likely the ones who call, you probably fit in this description. But those people who allow letters to make them. What? Oh, I love the world's greatest fraternity, Kappa Psi Fraternity Incorporated. I am the epitome of what my organization stands for. I'm a noob in every way, but Kappa Psi will never define me. Everything of who I am is who I was before. When I put some letters on the yard, I was like, oh, okay, who's surprised? When I first met Plush and he walked on this yard, I knew this is what he was going to do. Right. But on the other side of it, those hooks, sir, please sit down somewhere. Please. So I use that example. Fast forward. So now you have to wear the badge of Microsoft. You have to wear the badge of Google. You have to wear the badge of Nike. You have to use the badge of Google. You have to use the badge of TikTok. You have to use the badge of Salesforce. Well, all those badges just recently told you, give it back. So what are you?
I need it.
So what are you now? Lost. Because had you not allowed Amazon to define you, when Amazon gave you your walk-in papers, and of course, those folks who like to make themselves feel good about this, oh, I decided to take the package. I don't care what the process was. You're not there. So let's not put ourselves in the level, oh, I accepted that package. No. You're in the same boat. You without a job. and this is really, though, for us to all reel this in, because I'm really just tired of the woe is me moments and all this going on and the craziness and, oh, I don't have a job and I'm being selective about what I'm going to do. Listen, you don't have a job. Like, go get a job and continue to look for a job and allow that new job to be the stepping stone, because God forbid that there's an experience that God would like for you to have with these people. Kind of like going to church, where so many of us would like to believe, oh, I got to get myself together, then I'm going to go to church. I don't think that's how this works. It's kind of like a large part of going to church is to go on that path in a journey with God. Now, do you have to go to church for that to happen? No, but it definitely makes sense for you to go and convene with other believers. So in that same process, go get a job, any job. And while you're on that job, yeah, give you 100%. You don't have to steal from the company. But you also know that you can do more and you can look for more opportunities. And although this country, because I was a bit taken aback when I first started doing international work, and I've talked about spending quite a bit of time in the Netherlands. And when I realized that the law there was that on either side, employee or employer, mandated by law, unless there was something that you did illegally or anything in those lines, which would allow for immediate termination. But on both sides, you had to give a 30-day notice. So if you were going to get rid of me, you had to give me a 30-day notice. If I was going to leave, I had to give a 30-day notice. Now, what does that sound like? Fair. I'm like, oh, so you're telling me I signed up for this foolishness here where this company don't have to give me nothing, but the expectation is that I'm going to give 2 weeks, and if I'm at the executive level, God only knows how long I'm supposed to give so that they can prepare themselves to not skip a beat. But I tell you, have some class about yourself. Michelle Obama said it best. They go low, we go high. So just because you feel a certain kind of way, don't go out here and don't give your all to the next company you go to. Because ultimately at that point, what you're doing is you're now allowing your integrity to be questioned because of life experience that you've had. So go ahead and be your best you. Continue to do what you know is right and crush it and have a great time. So enjoy this new space. Enjoy the time that you're looking for your new job. Know you're going to get a lot of no's, but all you need is one yes. And all you need is one job. So we're going to jump right in. So as you all know, the way the episodes are supposed to start is supposed to jump right in, and then there's a sound that comes right under the Well, that's kind of what God had on my heart. I didn't know it was on my heart, but it's off now. But the topic for tonight was going to be no clue. And the reason why I wanted the topic for tonight to be no clue is because the level of preparation that I normally do this week has been a little different for me. I got some new stuff going on and going into an office and taking the bright line down to Miami. Like, what? Like, God, you're fun. What is all of this about, Lord? But nonetheless, I take my own advice. I'm embracing whatever this is the Lord is doing. And we'll talk more about that later. But the bottom line is the level of intense preparation. But I'm always thinking about these episodes. So I could do one of these episodes at any time. That's called what Theo talked about. Be ready. Then I have to get ready. And that's literally a part of my being. Like, I don't have to get ready for anything. I'm already ready. And that's why I base my timing on that. Like, being late to me is just foolish. Like, it's just ridiculous. Being late for anything, I'm bothered. Just have a problem with it. Now, let me be very clear. Anything that I might go too late is not because I'm going late. It's because I have no respect for the time that is set. Because early in my career, I did have a situation where there was this place where they didn't understand that if you think that I'm going to work all these ridiculous hours and you think that I'm going to work late consistently, that I'm going to give my all to this company, and you're going to have a receptionist to track what time I come in because you said I need to be there at 8 o'clock. I'm not doing that. So just not doing it. So I'm not going to ask you for permission. I'm not going to align with you. I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. And if you decide that you want to get rid of me, oh well. It is what it is. But that's called making a decision. and being able to live with the decisions that you make. Yet, when I'm in respectful environments and we can have the flexibility to understand that this is twofold, and if you want the best from me, the flexibility is going to be there. Or I'm going to put it there myself. So, path of least resistance is just for us to align and do what we're going to do. Keep it moving. And this is actually personally and professionally. I can give you some references if you want them. But in that, this whole No Clue episode is I wanted to give some space to the conversation because we've been so structured and rigid and tight and great topics. And I've loved the discussion and dialogue, and everyone who's been on has just been outstanding for all of the episodes. Yet tonight I wanted to breathe a little bit and just see where the conversation goes. Before I hand over to Theo, I'm just going to remind you all, this episode really aligns to kind of the concept of what I shared with you all as to how I build onto my calendar. Do nothing. This is that. This is that no planning, do nothing planning for this episode to see where it goes. And then just wanted to add one more disclaimer because I know there likely are some folks on who are like me, and it's like, well, what does this have to do with you as a consultant? Well, for that smart person like me, everything. And that everything is because this episode is just another layer of allowing a potential client to understand how I work. And it goes back to how I talked about how I introduced myself. I'm very direct. What you see is what you get. I say what I mean what I say. There's no double talking. There's no ever having to question, oh, I wonder what Plush thinks. None of that. And this episode is indicative of that. And actually, thank you, Tim, for reminding me that I could show more of me in these episodes. Like, so that part of me that people who really know me get an opportunity to see. So thank you, brother, for that reminder. And then I've taken heed of that. And this episode is really a direct result of that conversation. I have a group of all Black men it's about 15 brothers who I call Plush's Trusted Advisors Crew. So PTAC. And Tim happens to be one of the brothers there. And of course, they all have NDAs on. So me. And in that, we meet monthly. And on those particular calls, I allow them to truly feed into me from a vantage point of I kind of very clear on everything that I'm doing. And they from every discipline you can think of, PhDs to people older than me, people much younger than me. It's just a dynamic and amazing group of Black men. And when I tell you I look forward to these meetings monthly because we've actually been doing it for like probably maybe 2 years now. And it's never a dull moment. And so for those people like, oh, men don't communicate effectively. Oh, well, lies. Because these brothers have definitely done a great job of communicating. And what I love about it so much is that although it's Plush's Trusted Advisors Crew, they have forged business relationships and various connections that I'm not associated at all. And in turn, it's just become a very significant powerhouse group. And I'm excited about what God is going to have us to do publicly, because I know there's something that he's brewing for us to do together publicly. So looking forward to whenever that will manifest. But the reason why I'm sharing that group with you all is because they are so significant in encouraging me. They're so significant in advising me. They are a sounding board. They are my iron sharpens iron group. They are my okay, what do you all think? What are you all hearing? What are you all seeing? And they've given quite the significant feedback on the podcast, but they give quite the significant feedback on everything. And I would encourage everyone to formulate such a group, do it in a way, pray about it. The book, Think and Grow, because we all know I've dropped the term rich, by Napoleon Hill, he calls it your mastermind group. And it's one of those things that I highly encourage. So if there's anyone who's been thinking about it, they've never heard of the concept, reach out to me. I can tell you how I went about selection. And it's just been a major, major blessing in my journey. And I certainly, in any success that I have, certainly I always acknowledge God first. And then I definitely don't take for granted the significant sacrifices that my mom, dad, brother have made throughout their lives and are still making in order for me to be the person that I am. The rest of my family, I feel the same way. And so many other people, so many friends, and God has just blessed me significantly. Yet I do want these brothers to know that they have definitely now made the list, because they are so instrumental in what's happening, particularly at this phase of life for me. And I thank God for them. So in that deal, in our no clue session, which has definitely turned into a big clue session.
Yeah.
And I've said so much. So if you want to touch on any of those, you want to touch on no clue, whatever you want to touch on, go for it, brother.
Man, it's like we got a gumbo going right now. But the thing that sticks out that's a continuous line is being one within yourself. I think right now we live in a world where, going back to what you originally said, how persons sometimes they get lost in their identity of what they're connected to.
Absolutely.
You know,
and who they are.
It can be something. Yeah, it's like you really don't
and
know
whose
who
they
you
are.
when there you go. So a lot of times, like, people really don't know who they are, because those things, those tangible things, is what make them. But when you strip all that stuff away, it's like, who are you now? So I think the lesson in all of that is, moving forward in life, really get a gauge of who you are. Like right now, we live in a world where everything is so disposable.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's relationships, whether it's like, as a man, you get on social media and you have a plethora of everything. You don't have to pay for no subscriptions. You don't have to pay for nothing. Like, if you want to date a woman that lives in Amsterdam, you can find them by just going on Instagram or Facebook.
Yep.
When it comes to LinkedIn, there's recruiters everywhere. You don't even have to try to just put your resume out there and hope they grab it. You can actually go find them on LinkedIn and add them and say, hey, I just submitted an application, blah, blah, blah. So it's like we live in a world of options. So it's very vital that you really know who you are, because you get lost in the sauce.
Mm.
And you essentially
look at this brother preaching tonight. Look at you, brother. Lost in the sauce.
You get lost in the sauce. Because essentially, when you wrap yourself in things, say for instance, you talk about your workplace, you get wrapped up in your workplace and you neglect everything else in your life.
Yep.
And then the job folds. What do you have then? You neglected everything else. Now
Well,
you're
and then you die.
There you go. Then what you got now? What you gonna leave back?
Yeah.
Nothing.
What did you enjoy?
Years.
What did you embrace?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just the concept of that is it's so much meat and richness in knowing yourself, and then just wrapping it back up from a consulting standpoint, taking clients on. You have to be sure.
Yeah.
Sure of what, like, you can't go into a consultation and say, hey, I have a business, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
you don't know, you don't have no substance because you don't know
Mm-hmm.
yourself. You just
Mm-hmm.
I have an idea. Then
Mm-hmm.
what's the idea? Where's that
Yeah.
idea come from? Then you
Yeah.
it's like, come on. If you're gonna do something in life, you have to start with yourself. Like everything comes from I know me, and I we talked about this a few episodes back, where I was starting a record label at one point in time, or a label of producers.
Yeah.
Uh, and one of the questions you asked me, what's your why?
Yeah.
And a lot of times, when it comes to the workplace, when it comes to personal, a lot of people can't answer that question. They
Yeah.
don't know the why, and I feel
Yeah.
like they don't know the why because they don't know themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you open up a can of worms
Yeah.
that has so much meat, and like I said, like you said, it's God is funny
Yeah. He is.
because it's something that's such a needed topic
Yeah.
that people we veer off as people. We veer away from that. Like, I don't want to deal with myself, so
Yeah.
I'm going to wrap myself in the business. I'm going to wrap myself in the frat. I'm going to wrap myself
Yeah.
in all this other stuff. But
Yeah.
the crazy thing is, it's gonna show up eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, brother. So much there because you just spoke to the fact that God is the master everything, and He's definitely the master comedian. And I tell people all the time that Eddie, Dave Chappelle, I don't care who you like, they have nothing on God in how He deals in comedy and his wittiness and how he goes about making things happen. Thank you, sir, for bringing this full circle to the consulting component. And this is something I've
Mhm.
said on many occasions, and I look forward to when we go to the other side. So just for the listeners to understand how this is going to work. So one of the things that we're working on is certainly building out authentic realness from the consulting and independent contractor side, which you already know. That's the episode that we're on right now. Yet there's another side of authentic realness that we're going to be building out, and that's on the side of A&R Plush, the brand. And under A&R Plush, the brand, that's the creative and social me. And then the A&R Plush consultant and independent contractors, the corporate professional me. But I'm looking forward to bringing my good brother, Mark Richard, on, because one of the things that Mark and I talk about, and I'm going to bring Mark in on the A&R Push the brand side, we talk so much about wedding planning in particular, which both of us have done, and certainly not one of those areas that I want to do any significant work in anymore, just because it's a headache, it takes too much out of it, and most folks can't afford me when it comes to that because of the level of work that I put into those weddings. And after a wedding, I literally die for about 24 hours and then come back to life because I pour so much of myself into the wedding for the wedding to happen exactly the way that the couple wants. But where I'm going with this, and I'm going to bring it back full circle to what you're talking about, certainty of self allows you to be a wedding planner because you're not trying to make it your wedding. And that's why so many wedding planners fail, that they are looking for themselves to be married through the wedding of the couple. It ain't my wedding. If I want to go plan
Mhm.
a wedding, I need to go get married. I need to find this woman, need to propose, need to make sure she's the woman that God has aligned me with, and we need to move forward. We need to plan our wedding. That's the only wedding I can plan in the terms of how I want it to be planned. But when you are on the side of somebody else is paying you to bring their vision to life, it's theirs. I don't have an opinion. Like, I will give you my professional perspective, but I don't have an opinion. I tell people all the time, for me, purple and red are colors that clash. But if a couple comes to me and says, hey, we're having this purple and red wedding, please understand it will be the baddest purple and red wedding you've ever seen. And you might even like it. Like, ooh, we would have never done that, but it's hot. Yeah, because it's theirs. It's their vision. Bringing that back full circle to this side of the house, and the reason why I brought Mark in is because we laugh about it so much as to how people just insert themselves in people's weddings and really can't bring somebody else's vision to light and life, because you're too concerned with it being what you want and your preferences and your opinion. And ultimately, rather than implementing what the person wanted or what the couple wanted, you're now implementing what you wanted. Coming back to my side of the house, certainty of self allows me to be the consultant. Like, first of all, the fact that I've even put myself with the title of the consultant already tells you the certainty of self already. But that certainty of self allows me to work with any client and implement what they want and need. It's not my business. Anything that I want to make decisions on, that I want to pour into, I got my own to do that. I don't have to do that in yours. What I am going to advise you on is what's going to work best for what you need. But that's why I have to be such an attentive listener. That's why I have to take you through that interrogation to truly understand what your problem is so that I can help you solve it. And in this day and age, certainty of self is something that just is not very prevalent. And we see it in all facets of life. What else you got, brother?
It's true stuff. It's true stuff. It's true stuff. I'm so full right now. I'm so full because it really, the idea, even speaking from a standpoint like you started talking about the wedding planning, being in a creative space, it's so easy to go into doing so much because so much is inside of you. Ideas are constantly coming, and just for me, it's like once you know yourself, you'll be able to know your role and where you stand, if that makes sense. You know, a lot of times we go in places where, hey, I know I'm a son, but I have to be a father here because I have a son. Or how you can go into a restaurant, you can say, I'm a patron, I'm just coming to dine. But, you know, a lot of times, you know, with you having the creative edge and the consultant, it's easy to tap into the, hey, if they did this, it'd make it better. If they could do this, it'd make it better. If they do this, it'd make it better. So even with knowing yourself, it's important to, within that, know your role and where you stand in the situation as well. What I got out of what you just stated, which is another powerful point, because you know how to maneuver through a situation. And a lot of times in our society, what I've noticed in the workplace and just noticed in personal place is a lot of people have lost the art of knowing how to navigate because they don't know their role. It goes back to that place of, you know, we live in a time where anybody can be anything. I go on YouTube and get my degree, and I can tell you what you're supposed to be doing because I think I know.
Yeah.
But just tying back into the consultant piece, this is not a YouTube university type thing.
Yeah.
This is someone who is led by passion and purpose and has years of experience. And I'm always big on applauding the persons around me. But one thing I can say when it comes to your 8 services and someone getting you as a consultant, you know yourself first and foremost. You know your role, and you know how to attack it. And I'm going to get the best out of it because I'm going to pull everything out of you. And I'm going to make sure that at the end of the day, you're going to know yourself. And you're going to know your role, because this ain't going to work if you don't know yourself and you don't know your role. So it's great dialogue. It's great dialogue.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I definitely want to speak to something else you said, Theo, which is very significant. And I want people to really understand the power of words, because so often when we talk about roles, we talk about playing a role. And I tell people all the time, I could be a hell of an actor. But where it would go awry with me is when somebody says action, and then I'm supposed to go into a role, it's going to fail right there. Because I'm too real for that. Like, because literally acting for me is you're a paid liar. Especially for that you're being paid to lie. You're becoming somebody that you're not. That's called a lie. And that goes back to the whole lowest common denominator concept that I talk about. Yet for me, there's a difference in playing a role And that's just what is happening for a lot of people in the corporate space and being the role. Because when you're being the role, you truly are living and breathing it from a vantage point of this is what I do. Now, it doesn't define me, but I'm not playing anything. Like,
Mhm.
I am being your program project manager. I am being your management consultant. I am being your operations manager. I am being your contingent labor or workforce manager. I am being your chief of staff. I am being your supplier diversity manager. I'm being your motivational speaker. I'm being your voiceover voice actor person. Being. That being allows me to truly help you with whatever it is that you are needing and wanting from me as a service. Because remember, we've already defined that thoughts are indeed things. And because we know that thoughts are things, we have to know that the things that I'm doing with you as a consultant, those thoughts that we put in that action plan, in that project plan, are things. And by the time that we end our working relationship, those things will have manifested themselves to their physical equivalent,
Mhm.
although they would have started as thoughts.
Mm. That's good stuff there.
And with that, we're going to end. So thank you guys for our No Clue episode that just ended up being so many amazing and wonderful things. And for those folks like, oh my God, he's so harsh, yada, yada, just take it in love. Because know that it's coming from a place of empowerment. It's coming from a place specifically of hope, encouragement, and motivation. And also understand that those three terms don't always come to you feeling good. Sometimes we all need some sharpness. Iron sharpens iron. And that's what this was today. Let's go to the throne. Heavenly Father God, we come to you tonight, God. Just saying thank you, God, with a spirit of Thanksgiving. Look at that, having a spirit of Thanksgiving in January. How does that work? I thought that only happens in November. But no, God, we want to have a spirit of Thanksgiving every day because you're so amazing. You're so wonderful. And for those of us that have decided to align our lives with you, these kind of amazing moments can happen. This podcast tonight, God, was nothing short of absolutely positively amazing. I already know in advance that some strongholds are going to be broken from some folks just by listening to this episode. And for that, God, I say thank you because it's through you and your infinite wisdom that you provide platforms like this for people to hear exactly what they need to hear, for them to keep on keeping on, for them to know that whatever it is that they're setting their minds to, as long as it's aligning with your purpose for their lives, it will manifest. And truly, God, on their behalf, I want to say thank you. God, right now, thank you for the strong dialogue with Dio tonight, that you've allowed him to even be aligned with this dialogue and conversation. God, continue to bless his family, be with Fabi, who's away tonight, be with everyone who's ever been associated with this particular podcast. God, just thank you for all that you're doing in the world, because certainly this world we're living in is quite dark. Just every time we look at the news and we see another item pop up on our phones as a notification, it just seems to be so much heaviness. And this heaviness is going on around the world. But God, we know that you're still light. We know that you still yet sit on the throne. And we know, God, that everything in this life has purpose. We may not necessarily understand it at this time, but we trust you enough to know that you know what you're doing. So, God, I would ask that you would allow us to continue to grow and develop in this space, that you would continue to expand our territory. And certainly, God, we just want to just continually just acknowledge you because we understand that this podcast exists because of you. And we know that it's just impacting so many lives. So, God, we love you. We adore you. We magnify you. We thank you. We pray right now, God, in the name of your son, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
And to our listeners, just cannot stress enough to you all that the most important part of this Authentic Realness podcast, ARP, which happens to be ours, is each and every one of you. And certainly want to thank you for listening. Thank you for your engagement. Thank you for your feedback. Thank you for putting up with me. I know I can be a lot. Certainly know it. Imagine how much I got to go through to deal with me myself. So think about it that way. And in that, we will end as we always do. Until next time, let us all be spectacular together.